A containment cap placed over BP's gushing undersea oil well captured 6,077 barrels of oil during its first 24 hours in operation, between a quarter and a half of the amount that's spilling into the Gulf of Mexico each day. National Incident Commander Thad Allen said engineers hope to steadily increase the amount of oil that is siphoned off the well until the flow is captured and directed to a nearby ship at the surface. He acknowledged that the recovery operation is still delicate, however, and said large amounts of oil could still continue to flow into the Gulf for the next 2 months. Since the BP oil rig exploded nearly 6 weeks ago, federal officials say as much as 1 million barrels of oil have poured into the Gulf. The worst case scenario I can see is the discharge goes forward until we have the relief well built, which will be in early August, Allen told reporters. The cap, which resembles an upside-down funnel, was lowered over the blown-out well a mile beneath the sea late Thursday. BP had hoped by Saturday morning to close at least 2 of the 4 vents at the top of the cap, which are now open to relieve pressure, so the flow of the oil to the ship could be increased. But by late Saturday, technicians were still working to close the vents and were hoping they would be shut within the next day or two. BP is trying to achieve the right balance of pressure, directing as much oil as possible to the surface and reducing the flow from an imperfect rubber seal between the cap and a sheared-off riser pipe. BP is also trying to prevent water from entering the cap. The presence of water scuttled by BP 4 weeks ago when ice-like crystals called hydrates plugged the pipe. This time BP pumping methanol into the cap to prevent the crystals from forming. The oil captured Saturday is a fraction of the 23 to 47 million gallons government officials estimate have leaked into the Gulf since April 20th. A thick film coated the shores of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida on Saturday morning, and tar balls, discolored seashells, and orange foam had washed up on Gulf Coast beaches. The oil has turned marshlands into death zones for wildlife and stained beaches rust and crimson. More than 500 birds have been found dead from Texas to Florida since the start of the leak. More than 200 sea turtles have also been found dead. Dead dolphins were also washing ashore Saturday, although there was no official count. In Florida, state officials said there was an immediate concern that the oil would coat a long swath of the state's panhandle, and authorities were pushing for oil skimmers offshore and more cleanup crews on beaches. By late Saturday, thousands of local residents in the affected coastal states had been trained, hired, and were working on the cleanup effort. At a briefing Saturday, BP officials said the company had committed close to $85 million through June to cover about 35,000 claims from workers and small businesses, with about half of those claims already paid. The earliest claims being handled are for $5,000 or less, and most, 90%, went to fishermen, crabbers, and shrimpers. Staff writer Mary Pat Flaherty contributed to the report. By Kimberly Kindy, Washington Post staff writer, Sunday, June 6, 2010.